Hey gorgeous humans. I'm jumping on here today because I feel really called to share something that is and has been alive for me during this time, and I feel it's really important to share. And this has been very present for me at the moment as well. My body is doing physically clearing shit out. It's physically clearing shit out. And I wanted to share on something that has been present, and I actually wrote a post about it, which I'm going to read to you because I feel the video transmission, the version of it, is potentially more potent than just reading the words. And so it's in relation to the cycles of nature. And I feel like this is really something to speak in and speak on at the moment because of what's going on. So I'm just going to go dive in and read this post. And I want to start off by saying, in Chinese medicine, there are 5 and for peak expression, essentially. Earth is so it is actually the earth is the element that connects all of the elements, the underlying thread of all of the elements, and it represents home, basically, earth, pretty much. So the solidity of the core of coming back home. What are the foundations, right? So this is the element that connects all of them. Metal is autumn. I want to say fall, but it's autumn. And it's actually the element of letting go and grief. So you'll see, and this is what's reflected in our external nature, is in autumn, the leaves let go of their life, right? They're invited to literally let go of life. And they don't fight, they don't resist, they simply just be in the cyclical nature that's actually occurring. And what that also is an honoring process. So autumn is a process of honoring what was, and then that transition to what is coming. And this is also one of the things that we can tap into during this phase, because we all have these phases in our own life. This is actually how our emotions go in our being, how ourselves go. And so from the metal element, we then go into the water element. And in the water element is our inner winter, or externally is winter. And in this element holds, and this is the element that I want to talk about, this element that holds fear, anxiety, and paranoia. And from the water element, then we go into spring, right? From winter, we go into spring, and then spring goes into summer. And so in Chinese medicine, this water element leads into the wood element, which then leads back into the fire element. Now, I don't want to get too caught up in all of these because I want to talk about the water element. So my post is, let's talk about fear, anxiety, and paranoia. Let's talk about winter. Let's talk about the water element. Let's talk about yin. And let's talk about shadow, stillness, darkness and formlessness. And let's talk about what all of these have in common. In Chinese medicine, the water element is the element that holds the emotions of fear, anxiety, paranoia. It is also the cycle season of winter. It's the element that invites life from its external into its inner self, so back into its core. It is the phase of life when the sap in the trees turns from being external back into its core to come into the center to replenish. And we're taught that winter is a time where everything dies, but what is actually really going on is life is simply regenerating itself. So on the outside, it might look like plants are dead or only just surviving. Yet on the inside, life has returned to its source. So winter is actually a returning. It is a returning from being external to back to its truth, coming back to its core, coming back to the source of its very life. It's actually a homecoming. And it's a very, very necessary phase of nature in order for the next stage of life to be expressed in its fullest potential. Fullest potential being the main part of this. Because if it's only dipping in a little bit and then coming back out, it does not have the necessary reservoir to actually be expressed in its fullness. So winter is life returning to its source to replenish, regenerate, and rebirth in order to birth itself once more, to build a reservoir for true expression. And yet, in order to do this, it must be willing to let go of the life it most recently held. And this is why the connection to the elements is a really beautiful way of understanding what's happening emotionally and also even collectively. Because what happens is we need to move through the metal element, which is the representation of grief and letting go, in order to fully be in the water element, which is to be in the formlessness, to be in the darkness, to be in the unseen, the stillness. And as humans, because we almost don't know, it's an unknown. And because it's an unknown to our human mind, it can potentially bring up our relationship to, it might, bring up your relationship to fear. It might bring up paranoia. It might bring up anxiety. It could also bring up deep fulfillment and deep satisfaction and deep regeneration. So there is always two sides to everything. The reason why I felt it's really important to share this today, and also if you're jumping on and you're watching this and you feel that this is almost resonating, I'd love for you to let me know. Because one of the reasons why I felt really called to share this is because I'm feeling this deeply in the collective right now. This energy and this relationship become repatterning, because in the past we've potentially seen it as something to be scared of and something to fear, and that creates anxiety and that creates scarcity and all of the things, because it literally is a formlessness. We are literally being told that we have to go back home, and the water element is the home essentially as well, of the core of new life to birth itself. Because after water, after being in that water element, after the winter then starts to form and birth spring, which is new life in nature. And this is exactly what happens inside of ourselves. So this whole phase represents the unknown, and to our human minds and those who haven't conditioned themselves to trust in the darkness, to trust in the formlessness, to trust in this stillness, it can result in all of these things coming up, which is beautiful. One of the things that I wish to share around this is that we were birthed from formlessness. We were birthed from the water element. We came from the womb of our mothers, which is the very, very essence of water. The essence of formlessness, but simply the feeling. It was birthed from this feeling state. And so I have some questions for you to consider during this time that might support you in what you're journeying through. And, you know, what I want to say around this as well is I work very much on sexuality as well, because it all connects. It all connects. And the elements deeply relate to sexuality, deeply relate to ourselves emotionally, and deeply also relate and show up in our business and in our relationships. And everything touches everything, absolutely everything. So I'm going to pop some questions here that you can ponder. And I invite you to really be with them. I'm sure you've got a lot of time on your hands right now. And even if you don't, I invite you to sit with them as well, because they're very, very beautiful questions to ponder. So the first question is, what is your relationship to formlessness, to stillness, to darkness, to the unseen? So that's the first question that I wish to invite you to sit with and be with right now. What is your relationship to formlessness, stillness, darkness, and the unseen? And the second question I have is, does it translate into fear or anxiety or paranoia? And if it doesn't, what does it translate into? So I'll repeat that again. Does it translate into fear, anxiety, paranoia? And if it doesn't, what does it translate into? The third question is, what is your relationship to non-action during the time of stillness like, in order to build the reservoir for true expression? So what is your relationship like to non-action during stillness like, in order to build a reservoir to true expression? And the last question that I have for you, and this one relates into sexuality, is how does this also show up in the area of sexuality for you? How do all of these answers that you have been with shown up? How does this show up in the area of sexuality for you? This is a very important time for us to be in, to come back home to our core, to our center, to the source of what brought us here. And it's so fucking beautiful. It's so beautiful. And one of the things that I've been journeying with is noticing in my mind these thoughts around, again, how I should be showing up. So this for me has invited me into a state of stillness, physically, mentally, emotionally into a state of stillness and stopping and slowing down and in formlessness in all areas of my life. And again, it's rebuilding our capacity to express life how it next wants to show up. It's building our relationship with, hey beauty, it's building our relationship with formlessness, our trust in this, our knowing that that this is actually a beautiful, beautiful time of life, the winter phase, because winter births spring, which is pure potentiality. So I invite you to really be with these questions. And if this is something that you feel you would love to know more of, that you would love to dive more into, I'm going to be holding a 14-day free activation series. I haven't posted the group yet, but if it's something that you would love to dive into, completely free, it's simply an offering to be more in the understanding of this, then I invite you to either private message me or pop an emoji below, or just contact me in some way, shape or form so that when I actually do deliver this, I can let you know. It's a space where we get to really be in the juiciness of this time because we are coming back to our center. We are coming back to our core, back to our source. And it's actually the time in nature that is so potently necessary for life to come back to itself, to rebirth itself in its greatest potential, in its greatest expression, in its highest summer that it could possibly be in. And this is what we get to be in. So I invite you to really sit with those questions. And if you feel called to share with me privately or even publicly, I would absolutely welcome that. I'm sending you all so much love. And if you feel like someone needs to know this, someone needs to listen to this video, I invite you to tag them in it or share it along. It may just be the thing that supports them through something. I love you all so much.